Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're jumping right into an incredibly exciting, frankly mind-blowing method for cleaning up audio signals inside the Crescendo engine. We are talking about mastering the non-local means filter, or NLM for short. If you've ever banged your head against a desk trying to salvage noisy audio, you are absolutely going to want to hear this breakdown.
So think about this classic audio engineering dilemma. How exactly do you remove noise without completely killing the warmth of a track? For decades, we've fought to eliminate hiss, hum, and static. But the trade-off? It's almost always the destruction of the natural harmonics. You know, the very soul of the source material. You manage to clean the audio, sure, but you leave it sounding totally robotic and lifeless. Well, the NLM filter is here to completely flip that script.
All right, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the magic of NLM. Then we'll look at audio as an image, programming the filter, tuning the parameters, and finally, some practical usage strategies.
Okay, part 1, the magic of NLM. Typically, when we look at standard audio cleanup tools, things like your basic noise gates or fast Fourier transform subtractors, we're dealing with blunt instruments. They aggressively chop off the tails of your audio or just ruthlessly carve out frequencies, which notoriously destroys the harmonic integrity of your signal. But contrast that with the NLM filter. This is a highly sophisticated zero-latency denoising algorithm based on something called non-local statistical estimation. In plain English, it actively suppresses all that incoherent random noise while meticulously keeping the underlying musical soul perfectly intact.
Moving right along to part 2, audio as an image.
Now this is the real wow factor of today's explainer. The NLM algorithm wasn't actually built for audio. It was born in the medical field. The developer of this function in Crescendo initially used 2D and 3D versions of this exact algorithm on medical images, like MRI scans, to remove visual noise without blurring vital physiological details. And here's the crazy part. They took that highly experimental medical math and applied it to audio data, literally treating the sound wave as if it were a one-dimensional image.
And that brilliantly illustrates the medical to musical connection. Just like the algorithm might scan nearby pixels in an MRI to figure out what's tissue and what's static, in Crescendo, it temporally scans the audio. It identifies and suppresses noise by continuously comparing the current audio snippet with its own historical timeline. It looks backward in time, searching for repeating harmonic patterns. If a pattern matches, it says, great, that's music, keep it. If it doesn't match, it's noise, throw it out. It's just absolute genius.
Which brings us to part 3, programming the NLM filter.
So how do we actually use this in the Crescendo engine? The syntax is super straightforward. It's a simple assignment, result equals NLM, followed by 5 key arguments. You just feed it your input signal and then define the strength, the block size, the backward search window, and the stereo link. Keep a mental snapshot of this code because we're going to break down every single one of those parameters right now.
Let's jump into part 4, tuning the NLM parameters.
You have highly granular control over how this algorithm behaves. First up is strength, from 0 to 0.0 to 10.0, which acts as your master sensitivity dial. Next, block size, from 0 to 267. This is the actual physical size of the snippet measured in samples that it uses to hunt for those patterns. Then you have backward. This is your time machine. It goes from 0 all the way up to a massive 32,500 samples into the past, telling the filter how far back to look. And finally, stereo link, from 0.0 to 1.0, which blends the calculation between the left and right channels to keep your stereo image rock solid.
Now, it gets really interesting when we start pushing these parameters to their limits. Crank the strength up too high, you get aggressive denoising for sure, but you risk introducing musical noise. You know, those weird watery digital artifacts. If you keep your block size low, around 4 to 12, the engine processes incredibly fast. But if you're working with complex audio, like a lead vocal, you'll absolutely want a high block size, 30 or above, to preserve those delicate mid-range textures. And that backward parameter? Pushing that search window larger creates a mathematically superior statistical model of the noise, but it will massively torture CPU. It's a really delicate balancing act.
All right, finally, part 5, practical usage strategies.
Let's look at how to actually apply this. First up is what we call live mode, designed specifically for real-time performance. If you're cleaning up active inputs or live VST instruments while you're playing, speed is everything. So you'll want to set your block size low, between 4 and 12, and keep that backward search window short, somewhere between 100 and 300 samples. Set up like this, it acts as a hyper-sophisticated zero-latency replacement for a basic noise gate. And crucially, it keeps your CPU profile very low, so you aren't getting dropouts on stage.
But what if you're in the studio and you're trying to save a beautifully performed but terribly recorded, noisy track? That's studio restoration mode. Here, you basically crank the settings. Block size goes way up, anywhere from 32 to 267. And your backward search window, expand it massively, 1,000, maybe even over 10,000 samples. By leveraging that massive historical window, the algorithm can mathematically separate random tape hiss from periodic musical harmonics with incredible professional-grade accuracy. The catch, of course, is that the CPU profile gets extremely heavy. You're definitely going to need to freeze or render that track in your DAW.
Before we wrap things up, I want to drop a quick, surprising little Easter egg for the highly technical folks out there. Under the hood, Crescendo's specific NLM module actually uses a truncated linear kernel rather than a traditional one. It's this brilliant little engine optimization that makes running this intensely complex medical math actually feasible for audio applications inside a plugin. Pretty cool, right?
Which brings us to the end of today's explainer, and I want to leave you all with a thought. If a mathematical algorithm originally designed to scan human tissue inside an MRI machine can just be rewritten to seamlessly clean up audio tape hiss, what other non-audio technologies are out there right now just waiting to revolutionize music production next? The boundaries between these scientific disciplines are totally blurring, and tools like Crescendo are right at the forefront of it. I really hope this deep dive helps you master the NLM filter in your own mixes. Keep experimenting, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next explainer.